Oh my God, this is so awesome. This is so awesome. I hate, this is terrible for all these Chinese nationals who are being banned. I feel terrible for you, especially those who earned their way academically. But this will just make China even more powerful because a lot of the United States' power is brain drain. One of the key elements for why the United States remained the world superpower is because we had a lead in wealth. We could attract people from abroad who are talented and they come in and fill in the gaps here. So blocking talented Chinese people from leaving China to come to the United States is one of the best. If I were Xi Jinping, one of the things I would do is I would go to the United States and say, please ban my most talented people from moving to the United States and getting green cards and then becoming American citizens. That's what I would do. This is like the reverse Berlin Wall. This is like, I'm sorry, are you talented and intelligent? Please stay in China and build up China. We don't want you here. This is the dumbest policy of all time. This is something that I don't even think the Communist Party of China would have come up with because it's so good for China. This is unbelievably stupid. God damn, the right is complete fucking morons. Holy shit, they're stupid. Holy shit, they're stupid. This is unbelievably awesome. Trump to invoke the Alien Enemies Act of 1798. According to Newswire US. Remember when we literally had to have conversations about free speech on college campuses? Do you guys remember that? When every other day was, we need to have free speech on college campuses. We need to allow the Nazis to come and say that the white race is superior. Remember that? Free speech on college campuses? Which was really, conservative grifters should be paid by colleges to come speak racism to the students. Remember that? Remember how people said they survived 4 years of Trump, so they'll survive 4 more? Oops, I guess they were wrong. I mean, here's something that I will say. Donald Trump is even more of a fascist goon, and he's doing it faster than even my most pessimistic predictions, of which I was very pessimistic. I've always been pessimistic about Trump. I've called Trump a fascist for, since 2015. I sniffed it out immediately. I mean, I called into Majority Report and said he was a fascist in like 2015. Like, this is, the right just took away $1 billion of federal cash of California schools. All Title I funding programs gone. No more free food. PBIS was a 24-25 federal grant. So this is the last year for PBIS in California school. The right is hurting their own kids. Oh, what? Of course. We all knew the right wing was lying about free speech. In fact, I think I even typed, I don't know. Let me go ahead and see if I like just literally said that. Here it is. It's hilarious how quickly Elon has gone from I'm a free speech absolutist to authoritarian measures to prevent dissent or competition. Hey, FTC, would you agree that banning links to other competing social media sites by Twitter is an illegal anti-competitive practice? Those of us on the left tried to explain that the right never cared about the principle of free speech. They wanted to use slurs and discriminate against marginalized identities. The moment the right can silence the opposition and censor, they do. The technological illiteracy of our elites is truly breathtaking. They're really saying they're banning 100. Okay, this is, I mean, like, Trump will stand up for Nazi free speech, but is silent when scientists are deplatformed. Like, this is what I'm talking about. Like, I literally told you what would happen. Who knew that conservative ideologue wasn't serious about free speech? I thought free speech was an important American value. Yes, the Democratic Party is in full lockstep in support of the crackdown and against free speech. Again, called it, told you what would happen, and it wasn't. I'm not surprised. Again, it is what it is. Being right doesn't matter. It never did. They are overexpanding. So this is like this, ladies and gentlemen, is one of the most hilarious own goals of all time. One of the biggest problems that the Soviet Union had was that well-educated elites would leave the Eastern Bloc and so they could get paid more in the West. That was literally one of the weaknesses of the Eastern Bloc. Because it was less developed region of the world, they invested a lot in education. And then individuals would get educated, and then they would leave. It would go across the the Iron Curtain to defect so they could get paid more. This is very rational self-interest, right? You know, if the standard of living in another region of the world is higher, it makes sense that people want to have a higher standard of living. That's material. That makes perfect sense to me. Now, I wouldn't do it, but for a lot of people, just living a better life is important to them, which, you know, makes sense. So for the United States to basically cut off one of the main ways the U.S. implicitly weakens China, which is let's take their most talented students and inventors and scientists and bring them to the United States, and to stop that and tell Chinese people you are discriminated against by the racist West. They hate you. We don't even want your most talented and genius scientists and talented students and promising inventors. No. Stay in China. That is going to help China so fucking much because they're 1.4 billion people. They already graduate 6 times more engineers than we do. They already graduate twice the PhDs that we do. Do you understand that this is the sign of an American intellectual winter? Incredible. The man the U.S. deported who then helped China into space. Yeah, because of the Red Scare, we deported the guy who literally created the Chinese intercontinental ballistic missile and space program. A Chinese scientist helped not one, but 2 superpowers reach the moons, right? Caveat puri, but his story was remembered in only one of them. In Shanghai, there was an entire museum containing 70,000 artifacts dedicated to one man, the People's Scientist. How do you say his name? I don't know.
Jian Suisen.
Jian Suisen is the father of China's missile and space program. His research helped develop the rockets that fired China's first satellite into space and missiles that became part of its nuclear arsenal, and is a revered national hero. But in another superpower where he studied and worked for more than a decade, his significant contributions are rarely remembered at all. His parents were both well educated, and his father, after working in Japan, established China's national education system. It was evident from an early age that he was gifted and eventually graduated top of his class, winning a rare scholarship to MIT. In 1935, a trim, well-dressed young man arrived in Boston. He may have experienced some xenophobia and racism, but there was also a sentiment of hope and belief that China was changing in fundamentally significant ways, and he would certainly have been among the people who respected his knowledge. From MIT, he moved to Caltech to study under one of the most influential aeronautical engineers of the day, the Hungarian emigre Theodor von Karman of the Karman line. So do you see how America is strong? You have the best Chinese student with a Hungarian emigre. You have Albert Einstein. The reason why the United States was strong is because all these intelligent geniuses would move here. It wasn't homegrown shit. It was these people would come here because it was the wealthiest country. It had the most hope. It had the optimism. It had the growth. And we were brain draining the rest of the fucking world. The reason, I mean, like, it's incredible to ban the Chinese students from America. It is dumb as fuck, but also it's so dumb that I almost respect it. They were a key member of a small group of innovators known as the Suicide Squad. The group had earned this nickname because their attempts to build a rocket on campus because some of their experiments with volatile chemicals went badly wrong, said Fraser MacDonald, author of Escape from Earth, A Secret History of the Space Rocket. So he adds, no one actually died. One day, Jian got drawn into a discussion of a complicated mathematical problem with Molina and other members of the group, and before long, he was an integral part of producing seminal research into rocket propulsion. At the time, rocket science was the stuff of cranks and fantasists, McDonald says. No one was taking it seriously. No mathematically inclined engineer would risk their reputation by stating this is the future. But that quickly changed with the start of World War II. Huan was a Chinese citizen, but the Republic of China was an ally of the U.S. There was no massive suspicion about a Chinese scientist at the heart of American space endeavor. John was given security clearance to work on classified weapons research and even served on the U.S. government's Science Advisory Board. By the end of the war, he was one of the world's foremost experts on jet propulsion. He was sent with Theodore von Karman on an extraordinary mission to Germany, holding the temporary rank of lieutenant colonel. Their goal was to interview Nazi engineers, including Werner von Braun, Germany's leading rocket scientist. America wanted to find out exactly what the Germans knew. By the end of the decade, Jean's glittering career in the U.S. came to a sudden halt, and his life there began to unravel. In China, Chairman Mao declared the creation of the Communist People's Republic in 1949, and quickly the Chinese came to be seen in the U.S. as the evil ones. So we go through these periods in the U.S. where we were infatuated with China, then something happens and we revile China, he says. Meanwhile, a new director at JPL became to believe there was a spy ring at the lab and shared his suspicions about some members of the staff with the FBI. I noted that they were all either Chinese or Jewish, says Fraser MacDonald. The Cold War was underway, and the anti-communist witch hunts of the McCarthy era were just around the corner. It was the atmosphere that the FBI accused Jian, Frank Molina, and others of being communists and a threat to national security. Only fact. The charges against Jian were based on a 1938 document of the U.S. Communist Party that showed he had attended a social gathering that the FBI suspected was a meeting of the Pasadena Communist Party. Although Jian denied being a party member, new research suggests he joined at the same time as Frank Molina in 1938. But that doesn't necessarily make him a Marxist. To be a communist at this time was a statement of anti-racist, says Fraser MacDonald. The group wanted to highlight the threat of fascism, he says, as well as the horror of racism in the U.S. They were campaigning, for example, against the segregation of the local Pasadena swimming pool, and they used their communist meetings to discuss it. Wow, I'm so surprised. Were the communists on the right side of history? How could that be? How could that be? He was, however, stripped of his security clearance. There was no evidence he ever spied, and put under house arrest. Caltech colleagues wrote to the government pleading for his innocence, but in vain. When he had spent 5 years under house arrest with no proof, President Eisenhower took the decision to deport him to China. The scientist left by boat with his wife and 2 U.S.-born children, telling waiting reporters he would never step foot in America again. He kept his promise. He was one of the most prominent scientists in America. He had contributed so much and could have contributed so much more. So it's not just humiliation, but a sense of betrayal. John arrived as a hero in China, but was not immediately admitted into the Chinese Communist Party. His record was not impeccable. His wife was the aristocratic daughter of a nationalist leader, and Juan's fall from grace had been living happily in America. He'd even taken the first steps toward applying for citizenship. When he finally became a party member in 1958, he embraced it and always tried to remain on the right side of the regime. When he arrived in China, there was little understanding of rocket science, but 15 years later, he oversaw the launch of the first Chinese satellite into space. Over the decades, he trained a new generation of scientists, and his work laid the foundations for China's lunar exploration program. Ironically, the missile program that Jian helped develop in China resulted in weapons that were fired back on America. John's Silkworm missiles were fired at Americans in the 1991 Gulf War, Fraser McDonald says, and in 2016 against the USS Mason by Houthi rebels in Yemen. I think they meant Houthi and they misspelled. Nobody noticed. So there's this odd circularity. The U.S. expelled this expertise and it has come back to bite them. In taking a tough line against domestic communism, he suggests, the country deported the means by which one of their main communist rivals could develop their own missiles and space program, an extraordinary geopolitical blunder. Racism gets you every time. So racists, how do you deal with this? Asmongold. Oh my God. Can you imagine, like, people like Asmongold are trying to deport students with Columbia master's degrees. Asmongold is saying, no, this is what's incredible. Asmongold is saying, yes, let's deport a guy with a Columbia University master's degree. Asmongold. True idiocracy. The guy can't wipe his own ass. He's not able to go to the dentist on time. And he's deporting a Columbia educated, intelligent leader because he disagrees on Israel. And Asmongold is too fucking stupid. He doesn't even know what the First Amendment means. Like, Asmongold thinks white people are superior, and he holds himself up as an example. That's incredible. Or at least our white culture is superior. I want to be correct. I want to correct myself for what he said. I wonder if he does he consider himself a race realist? I want to ask Asmongold that. Does Asmongold consider himself a race realist? Does he think that, like, the races have different potentials and stuff? Somebody should ask him that. A former U.S. Secretary of the Navy, Dave Kimball, later head of the rocket propulsion company Aerojet, once said it was the stupidest thing this country ever did. He won't ever direct answer something like that? Yeah, he's seems kind of cowardly. Today, there is once again heightened tensions between China and the U.S. This time it's not over ideology, but trade. In Fraser McDonald's view, Jean's story is a warning about what happens when you expel knowledge. The whole story of American science is that it was propelled by people coming from outside. But in these conservative times, that's a story that becomes harder to celebrate. L-O-fucking-L. And all I can say is, you guys know what I'm going to do. You know what I'm going to say.
国共产党万岁！伟大光荣英雄的中国人民万岁！
You know, the thing that's really crazy is like when you see this skyline shit, all this has been built in the last 20 years. All of this has been built in the last 20 years. All of this, I mean, I think some people don't realize that. Like, all of this has been built in the last 20 years. You realize that, right? Like, you see this skyline and you're like, oh, it kind of reminds me of New York City. Well, that's not true of New York City. This is all 20 years old. In fact, there is like this. Did I see this? China unveils quantum computer. Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, we talked about that yesterday. There used to be a thing that you could show. It's like, is this it, Toby? This is the 1990s. Do you think that Xi Jinping is the kindest Chinese FDR, member of the elite class, trying to moderate between labor and capital to shepherd the state of the future and stop contradicting? I mean, I think that if I'm being honest and not memeing for a second, the best way to understand Xi Jinping is that he is he's the world's only actual intellectual moderate. He's the world's only actual moderate between capitalism and socialism. Like, he's the only one that actually exists. Everybody else who calls themselves a moderate in the world politics is actually an extreme capitalist ideologue. Xi Jinping is like the only moderate that actually, the true center left. And like, pragmatism and meritocracy seems to actually be what the way the Chinese Communist Party operates now. It's very funny because it's like the only way you could have people actually functionally run capitalism for the benefit of humanity is if they're communists. Only if they're people who are knowingly saying this stage of humanity is the middle stage and we're trying to progress beyond it. That's the only way people could actually operate capitalism for the benefit of humanity. Because capitalists are like, I only care about now and myself and the short term. They don't have the ability to manage the contradictions of capitalism or smooth it over or extract value for society. It's all about extracting value from society. Zhao drops 400 more points. S&P 500 nears correction territory as Trump threatens more tariffs. I should have bought those puts. You skipped over his femboy post? I don't need to go look into that. Average Destiny viewer. Average anti-Hassan viewer. Mike, your vibes are so impeccable that I discovered you when Hassan was still doing leftovers and you were streaming his conversation with Ethan and dunking on Ethan when I was being charitable toward him because Hassan was his friend, and soon enough Ethan's Zionist capitalist Red Scare personality came out. Wow, it's almost like I know what I'm talking about. That's crazy.
Oh yeah, the Trump tariff rollback. That was a wonderful 2 days, wasn't it? Trump's like, I'm imposing tariffs on
Oh, but they're new tariffs now.
on Canada and Mexico. 2 days later, Trump's like, maybe I'm not imposing tariffs on Canada and Mexico anymore. But the Canadian reaction to that was so great. It's like suddenly you guys understand imperialism.
This China State Shipbuilding Corporation, the world's biggest shipbuilding group, the firm built more commercial vessels by tonnage in 2024 than the entire U.S. shipbuilding industry has built since the end of World War II.
Suddenly you guys understand that it sucks and that it's bad. Now that it's happening, I mean, it's not happening. You're not a victim of imperialism. You're imperialist yourself. But like, now that like your former ally is doing the same sort of shit that it does to everyone else to you, suddenly you understand. You're like, nationalist, buy Canadian. Like all of the Canadian chains, even though they didn't need to, they started like getting rid of like all American products, like a blanket removal of American products from the shelves and straight up replacing like their supply with like Canadian products, all in reaction to this. And there was like this massive Canadian nationalist sentiment. Like I saw like nauseating posts on like the Canada subreddit, like, I'm from Mexico and I stand in solidarity with Canada. Look at all these Canadian products that I bought. Now it's happening to you. Like, you didn't seem to care when they did it to Iran. In fact, you participated in the sanctions on Iran. You didn't seem to care when they did it to Syria, when they did it to Cuba. I mean, maybe Canada's government did actually care about Cuba. Never mind. That's the one case where they do actually vote against the blockade. But like, you didn't care when it was time to invade Afghanistan alongside the Americans. But now you do that the Americans made your spirits cost 25% more? It's just such a joke. Like, it takes you being like attacked by the USA to realize that the USA is bad and that you've been doing their bidding this whole time. I don't think you're going to realize that though. I think like the second Trump is gone, they're just going to go back to their old ways, obviously. And there was like Trudeau, outgoing Trudeau, no reason to say this shit anymore. In the midst of this whole thing, going on TV and being like, I'm a Zionist. I love Israel. I'm a Zionist.
Being tossed around as a pejorative, in spite of the fact that it simply means believing in the right of Jewish people, like all people, to determine their own future, is not normal.
It's not normal.
No one in Canada should ever be afraid to call themselves a Zionist.
You should be afraid because you're expressing an ethno-nationalist belief that Jews should be able to steal Palestinian land on a racial basis.
I am a Zionist.
This guy is done. He has no reason to say this. He's out of, like, he's not the prime minister anymore soon. He's still doing it. It must be because he's already got a job lined up at some pro-Israel organization or some shit. That's the only like self-interested reason to say it. But anyway, so Trump did the tariffs and he backed out on the tariffs on Mexico almost immediately. It took him like 2 days. Like he made a bunch of exemptions and stuff. I don't know. It seems like Trump generally does not understand that tariffs are paid for by the country that levies them, first and foremost. I don't know, like when you're in the position that the US is in of like total global economic dominance, you control the financial system, you have no reason to put tariffs on almost anyone unless you're specifically trying to coerce like regime change or something, as they do with Iran, for example. You have very little reason to do that. And he's doing it all over the place because he's a fucking idiot. It's just the reaction from the Canadians is mind-blowingly nauseating. It took it happening to you for you to realize that it's bad, and you're just going to go back to your own ways afterwards as well. Or at best, you're going to form like your own like imperialist alliance with Europe, like sort of keeping America more on the fringes while nonetheless being collaborative with it. Do all the same shit you've always done, just like this to other countries. But it's okay because you do it to them and that, rather than it being done to you. This is awesome because this is like the first real time where the imperialist sidekick countries have been given a taste of what it's like for all of their opponents all the time, for everyone they target. I love that they're being given a taste of it, and I hope it continues. Like, Trump has done so much to just destroy the imperialistic Western bloc, the unity that they previously had. He's shooting himself in the foot so badly, fucking dismantling USAID, the NED, defunding like the CIA and shit, firing CIA employees, proposing to cut the military budget to half. This guy is like, without wanting to, he is destroying his own country's influence and power. And with it, he is destroying a huge part of the capacity of the Western Bloc to do imperialism, because the US is the #1 imperialist country, obviously, and that is fantastic. And he's doing it all by accident, but the intent doesn't matter. The effect is what matters. Like, I said beforehand, like, I think that Trump will do a lot of really dumb shit and accidentally do things that are anti-imperialist, but I did not mean like this. I did not think it would be this bad. I did not think he would do this much. I couldn't have never imagined this even in my wildest dreams. It is insane how dumb him and Musk are. Like, if you wanted to achieve your goals, which is like more overt imperialism, it seems, is what they want, you would keep the Western alliance of the European countries, with Canada, with Australia. You would nurture it. You would continue. You would expand US aid, if anything. More NED, more funding to all of it, more interference. Send in more troops. He's making it impossible to send in the troops, given that he's alienating everyone, given that he's ruining his own influence and the USA's own influence and power. And he's getting rid of all of the supposedly so-called soft power shit as well, which makes it even harder. What a moron. What a delightful moron. I love you, Donald Trump. Tariffs now on everyone. More. But don't back out of them this time, you fucking coward. Jesus. Like, he's just using them as a tool, like a performative tool, I think. He doesn't really, he's too much of a pussy to keep them on. I don't know. He doesn't really. Donald, if you're watching this, Donald Trump, I challenge you. I challenge you. I believe that you can do it given your profound business acumen. I challenge you to do tariffs on everyone, Canada, Europe, everyone, and keep them up. Don't back off. Don't let them win, Trump. When you back off, they win. Donald, I trust you can do it. If anyone can do it, it's you.
All right, so chat, I want to watch another video from BadEmpanada.
I want to see what these guys have to say about this. Is the imperialism police versus Sam Cedar. Let's judge him. Rogan spreads insane conspiracy theories about USAID. Doge victim USAID. Victim USAID? That's a weird framing, but okay. Let's see what he has to say. According to the whistleblower who contacted me, who will remain anonymous, Sam Cedar in this video support, defend, and make brilliant statements like they are trying to kill soft power, and when there is no soft power, there's nothing left. Basically advocating for supposedly good American imperialism. So let's see if this is actually true, because I do not just trust anyone. Let's see. Where do they talk about soft power?
This is like there's no anti-war Republicans. They're isolationists, and who's always going to win?
Which is good. The United States should be isolated. The United States of America is a genocidal imperialist power, and it should be isolated. Now, it just so happens that it wouldn't lower the American people's standard of living because we're incredibly wealthy and we have an incredibly rich continent. The United States of America should not be involved in policing foreign countries' domestic politics. We are not God kings. We are not more enlightened. We absolutely 100% should not be the world superpower. There shouldn't be such a thing.
What's worse, American like being the world's worst fucking genocidal empire, or America just isolating itself? Which one do you think is worse? If you think it's the isolation, I think you're kind of an imperialist.
The day are the military contractors and the defense industry. So there may be like a Rand Paul or a Mike Lee that thinks like, yeah, we should kill soft power. I don't care about kids in Africa getting AIDS. Let's cut it all, cut it all, cut it all, cut it all.
You think that American soft power is about stopping kids in Africa from getting AIDS? Are you a child?
I guarantee you, the military-industrial complex, the hard power, the contracts are going to go to Elon Musk.
The United States of America just left Africa alone and didn't interfere with it and enforced our anti-corruption laws. It didn't send the State Department and the CIA and covert operatives to prop up these evil dictators. Africa would develop within a generation or two.
That he's developing jets with Boeing, that's going to go up. So it just makes it so that the United...
That doesn't make sense. Are they isolationists, or do they want to invade every country in the world and make military contracts go up? Which is the answer here?
The United States is just a brute military power, which we've already been on the road towards.
Except for none of this is going away.
Why do you think that those two things, for one, are incompatible. They're trying to form this narrative where the so-called good soft power that cures African children of AIDS is being replaced by like brute military power, as if this brute military power was not already there and already being utilized all the time by the US. Gaza, that's very much a US military operation. The US military is essentially surrounding Gaza, sending fucking intel to the Israeli military, which is their proxy, so that they can destroy it. Like this notion.
We're not just sending intel, we're literally helping them do the bombs. We're shooting down and attacking any outside power that tries to intervene on behalf of the Gazans. We are using the international system to declare them terrorists. We are targeting anybody who might support containing militarily the genocide in Israel. And I will point out that according to the anti-genocide praxis, like what you're supposed to do when a genocide is going on is organize an international coalition to intervene. That is considered to be appropriate response. So the fact is the United States is not only not doing that, we are giving the weapons to the Israelis to do the genocide, and we are positioning military forces to intervene against anybody who might want to step in and stop the genocide. And we are interfering with international law processes that are attempting to stop it via treaty and via international court obligations. The United States is not just, passively an ally of Israel. We are an active participant in the genocide. Period.
That's like the Democrats were doing soft imperialism, or they were utilizing soft power, like curing Africans of AIDS. You guys do not understand anything. Like, you do not understand fucking anything, man. You just look at what's in front of your nose. You take everything at face value. What does Sam Cedar have to say, though? Is he any smarter than her? I don't think he's smarter at all. I just think he basically rides off being condescending in front of an audience of morons.
This is all just a fabrication.
I'm just trying to make a point about the lack of sincerity of the anti-war right and how this is the project. It's actually going to funnel more money into the military-industrial complex.
Keep going here.
Did Trump not claim that he wants to halve the military budget? Now, he probably doesn't want to actually do that. But either way, even saying that is way more than like the Democrats ever did to cut the military budget or whatever. And whether Trump means by that, like that he wants to do imperialism or not, obviously he's dishonest. It doesn't matter because it's a good fucking thing. It's a good fucking thing that American imperialists fucking cut their own feet off and reduce their own capacity to do imperialism. That's why it's a great fucking thing that they are destroying US aid and destroying American so-called soft power, because any destruction of American power is fucking good. The USA is a genocidal empire. It wants to control your resources. It wants to control your population. It wants to control everything about your country and direct your policy, direct everything about like the way that your country is run towards benefiting the United States of America. It does this through obviously directly coercive means, but also through more indirectly coercive means like US aid. Getting rid of that shit is overall fantastic, great, good. And it is embarrassing for Trump that he doesn't realize this, but lamenting that he doesn't realize this, like literally sitting there like, this is such a disappointment. This is so bad. That doesn't make any fucking sense unless you support imperialism in general. That's the only point where it makes sense. So what else do the genius...
I mean, I completely agree with BadEmpanada. BadEmpanada is totally correct. BadEmpanada is totally correct. The United States does not do USAID to help the children of the world. That's just not the case. And if you think it is, you are dangerously deluded.
This is Sam Cedar and whoever the hell the other person is have to say about this.
Listen to what he lists. This is what he goes on to list.
I don't care about what Joe Rogan says. Everyone already knows Joe Rogan's a dumbass. I want to see what these guys have to say about the end of American USAID soft power. Like one of the comments, the message taken here, soft power isn't a bad thing. Apparently spreading American imperial influence is not a bad thing. As long as America takes control of your government by coercing them with USAID, that is apparently a good thing. Like, these people seem to think the only bad thing about the Iraq war was the war part and not the actual aims and goals part.
The thing about USAID, which is just fascinating, like what they're trying to do here, they're trying to kill soft power by the United States. When there's no soft power, what's left?
Well, I got news for you. They're just going to come in and they're going to do the exact same damn thing.
No, but my point though is that I just
When there's no soft power, what's left? Like nothing, and that's good.
The America leaving Africans alone, America not intervening in Latin America, America letting these countries to operate alone and not interfering in these countries. And if we do, we engage in reciprocal trade among equals, and we don't allow our corporations to corrupt their governments, and we don't use the State Department to create puppet states, and we don't send special operators to assassinate their leaders, and we respect them as equals, nations on the world stage. We allow them to form, the African Union without assassinating everybody. Maybe we just treat them like human beings and equals.
That's precisely what we want. We want the American empire to withdraw, whether it is intentional or not. I don't care. I don't care if it's Trump and Elon Musk being bumblefuck morons and dismantling it by accident, or someone doing it more intentionally. What I do care about is just that it's gone. So if without soft power, there's nothing left for the U.S. empire, fan-fucking-tastic. Less capacity of the U.S. empire to coerce countries into giving up their resources to reorganizing their economies along what would be more productive for the U.S. Perfect. Great. Good. Thank you. Excellent. What exactly are you lamenting here? There's I don't even know that these people understand what it is that they are warning. It feels like it's just because Trump is doing it, they have to pretend they're against it. I mean, or maybe they are against it. I mean, they're probably just imperialists. I don't know why I said that.
I mean, I don't think it's the main reason. I think the Republican power
what the fuck this is like a random guy in a circle in the corner.
Overwhelmingly is why USAID's getting attacked right now. But we can't be doing the soft power, the nakedness. It's not going to be trusted anymore. I think, frankly, after Gaza,
why should it be trusted? Why would it be trusted? It's fucking always been a lie.
I think part of why this is so easy for these guys to turn their back on is, like Emma mentioned earlier, the pretense of all this has been undercut significantly.
Yep.
Do you guys agree with that pretense, though?
Yep. The whole notion of we're supporting the international world order, and we would do X
Did you ever believe that?
in Ukraine, but then 180-degree X.
Okay, let's ignore all of this. Let's go back to before Ukraine ever happened. Do you think then any of this was even remotely true? These guys aren't against US imperialism. They seem to be lamenting its fall, if anything. And yeah, there's no difference between soft and hard power. What's the fucking difference if you do a regime change through funding opposition parties, through USAID, funding protests, funding a militia group to overthrow the government, and sending in the troops to do it yourself? Functionally, the end goal is the same. The result is very similar.
Gaza made it much harder.
The important thing here is the power part, not the hard part or the soft part. Do you really want the United States of America intervening in other countries' elections and putting in regimes that don't serve the interests of the people there, but serve the interests of American corporations? That's what we're talking about here. And I don't want the United States of America to have hard power or soft power, period. I want the United States of America to defend itself from foreign aggression. I want it to focus on developing its own people and engaging in mutually beneficial, mutually agreed to deals with foreign countries, where we treat each other like equals and we respect each other's sovereignty. I don't want the United States of America intervening, invading, setting in USAID to manipulate the fucking public opinion. I don't want them invading. I don't want them doing assassinations. The United States of America has never shown itself to be interested in human rights, human development, only in the interest of its domestic corporations and Wall Street to make as much profits as possible at whatever expense to the domestic population. So USAID having to go away, good. You want to do foreign aid, it should be done through international organizations, not through the United States of America.
Maintain.
He honestly seems to be mourning this.
The loose fiction.
But people are going to starve because of this.
Denver John, Glum Day Monday.
Starve because of this. People starve in the first place because of American imperialism. You make them poor, and then you make them reliant on your so-called aid. People starve because of you. Because of you. You make the problems, then...
How did the U.S. get all this power from the beginning? Were all the other countries just hanging out, taking a break, while people were able to go across an ocean and take hundreds of years to build? The answer is what was known as imperialism. So what happened is there was the Europeans had a technological advantage for a short period of time because of the development of industrialism, industrial capitalism, and so they were able to develop technologies that gave them a qualitative advantage over other nations, and they engaged in horrific imperialism where they would use the technology and weapons they had to kill and dominate others for their own gain. For example, like slavery and imperialism. You know, you would take entire nations, we would genocide and replace, right? And we did that because, you know, for a variety of reasons, but one of them is we lacked the ability to treat human beings as equals. And we considered them, we supported racial theories, we as in the West, supported racial theories of white supremacy and domination. That's why. So, and the United States of America, the West, have tried to maintain that advantage, and they use coercion to do so. They use soft power and hard power to maintain their qualitative advantage. And the way they treat these countries in Africa, which are not really countries, they are the imperial remnants that they have now hijacked so that they could continue the imperial extractionism to profit themselves. It's not very complicated, right? And it's holding humanity back.
Then you make yourself like the giver of the solution, the solver of the problem. And it's all pure propaganda bullshit. And these guys will never question it. They don't even seem to know what they want to think about it. It just seems like these guys are ultimately American imperialists. I don't know how else you can spin this. They are lamenting this because they fundamentally believe that American imperialism could be reformed into something good, or that at some point it was good, and the Republicans are ruining the potential for this. Anyway, moral of the story, you should have outgrown the Majority Report a long fucking time ago if any of you were here. Like, Sam Cedar seems intelligent because he's a witty comedian. I mean, witty comedian. I've never seen his comedy. I'm assuming that because at one point he was a comedian, he's witty. He's probably not. But he is someone who was at one point a comedian who debates idiotic American right-wingers. Of course, in that situation, he's going to look like a genius. Like, watch him there. I don't even know what to make of that. Like, I'd call him an imperialist, but you can't even come to such a conclusion because he doesn't even try to form an analysis of what's going on. He just sort of like, yep, soft power's gone. Whew, kind of sad, right? We can't keep up with the charade anymore. I'm kind of sad about that. That's it. What am I supposed to fucking do with that? There's no substance there. There's no thought there. There's no like epic debate Lord Sam Cedar there. It's really nothing. It's telling liberals what they already wanted to hear regarding Trump. Anyway, be right back. I gotta go kill another of those assassins.
Make sure you hit the subscribe button over at BadEmpanada, BadEmpanada W. I feel like I really, you know, this is one of those times where BadEmpanada is exactly what you need. Which is to be honest with people and just be like, hey, listen, like on this issue, USAID dying is good if you're an actual anti-imperialist. And this is where the differences arise between people that actually understand history and geopolitics and those that don't. Right? Common BadEmpanada W, honestly. Another W for BadEmpanada. And it is exactly why he is one of the best analyzers of politics on YouTube. USAID went around Latin America teaching torture techniques to fascist dictatorships. In Uruguay, Marxist guerrillas captured and executed a USAID worker because they had evidence he was CIA. Of course they are CIA. Now, I like MR, but they're dead. And you could also see that Matt Leck agrees with BadEmpanada, guys. Matt Leck agrees with BadEmpanada. And yes, there may be short-term, saying that people might in the immediate short term be worse off because their agricultural industry was destroyed by USAID and they now depend on food aid. But we'll see. You know, let's see the impacts. The idea that you could just be like, oh no, we need to keep doing imperialism because the USAID engineered this dependency is otherwise you are bad is just nonsense. BadEmpanada is not Cedar is greater than BadEmpanada. Yikes. See, this is what I mean about telling the truth with people. Is, as I said earlier, it's not about the arguments. It's not about the facts. It's about parasocial connections. And like, either, you know, and at a certain point, like, you need to be willing to actually engage with the critiques of liberalism, you know? Like, the United States of America is not the good guys. You need to get over that. If you can't get over that, then you're never going to stop being a liberal. Can imperialism ever be a good thing? No. There's certain people among the left that think CIA operations stopped at a date of the latest declassified documents. They really think it just magically stopped. Yeah, it's incredibly stupid. If you had to pick a country to say they were the good guys, what would it be? No one, because I'm not a baby and I don't need good guys in order to have a politics. Unfortunately, now we have all this conservative U.S. afforded its assistance to Latin America and the Caribbean. Man, that was a lot of money in the 80s. Trends in U.S. foreign assistance to Latin America generally reflect the trends and rationales for U.S. foreign aid programs globally. U.S. assistance spiked in the 60s during President Kennedy's Alliance for Progress, reflecting an interest in preventing the spread of Soviet and Cuban influence in the region and recognizing poverty as one possible root cause of popular discord. In the 80s, U.S. forces shifted to Central American isthmus, where leftist insurgencies were challenging friendly governments, and where a leftist movement in Nicaragua had taken control of the government through armed combat. Substantial amounts of U.S. assistance were provided to support Central American governments and U.S.-backed Contras seeking to overthrow the Sandinista government in Nicaragua. In the aftermath of the 1989 U.S. military intervention in Panama, the 1990 electoral defeat of the Sandinista government in Nicaragua, U.S. assistance to these two countries increased substantially. I mean, you could just see The United States provides small amounts of international military education and training funding to El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, and Nicaragua, so that both civilian and military leaders can participate in professional training programs. Now, chat, what do you think this means? I'm interested in why you agree with BadEmpanada, because Hassan recently is disagreeing with him. Okay, this video is got 100 views. This is probably not one I can watch raw. I live in Puerto Rico, and roughly 85% of the food consumed is imported to the U.S., replacing all our crops with sugar when they invaded us. They have left us in a state where we have no industry or left to rely on them. Our independence movement is looking to restart our agriculture to be less rely on them. I think that if you don't know anything about Latin America, but yet you firmly believe USAID is good, you should probably just unsubscribe now and leave forever. That would be my personal advice.